Oh, say, can you see a new edition of CNN Student News? Because it starts right now. From the CNN Center in Atlanta, I'm Carl Lazouz. First up, President Obama says the U.S. will spare no effort to learn how an outrageous attack took place. Happened yesterday at Germany's Frankfurt airport. 2 American troops were shot and killed on a U.S. military bus. 2 others were wounded. They were security forces who were being deployed. German police have 1 suspect in custody. Officials say that what they think happened is that the gunman rushed onto the bus while it was waiting outside the terminal and then started shooting. This would be a federal crime in both the United States and in Germany. The story was developing when we produced this show yesterday. For the latest, CNN.com. The fighting between Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi's troops and the rebels who are against Colonel Gaddafi is getting worse. Libyan aircraft bombed 2 parts of the country yesterday where rebels have taken control. In this incident that you're watching, a CNN crew saw an aircraft drop 2 bombs near a town that has major oil and natural gas facilities. U.S. officials say one option to try and push Gaddafi out of power is to create a no-fly zone over Libya. Defense Secretary Robert Gates says if Congress orders that, the U.S. military could do it, but he warned lawmakers that in order to set up the no-fly zone, first, the U.S. would have to attack Libya's anti-aircraft weapons.
Today's first shout-out goes out to Mr. Brown's Global Studies classes at Goodrow Middle School in Des Moines, Iowa. Which of these documents discusses freedom of speech? Is it the Declaration of Independence, Preamble to the Constitution, Gettysburg Address, or Bill of Rights? You've got 3 seconds. Go. Freedom of speech is found in the Bill of Rights. That's your answer, and that's your shout-out.
The First Amendment, to be specific. People have the right to exercise their freedom of speech, even if what they're saying is hurtful. That's the ruling that the U.S. Supreme Court made yesterday in a case about the balance between free speech and privacy. On one side was the Westboro Baptist Church. They believe that God is punishing America for, quote, the sin of homosexuality. And they think that U.S. troops deserve to die because they fight for a country that tolerates homosexuality. Church members have raised controversy by protesting near funerals for members of the military. That includes the 2006 funeral for Lance Corporal Matthew Snyder. Matthew's father, Albert, who says his son was not gay, is on the other side of this court case. He says the protesters shouldn't have been at the funeral, and he sued the church for invasion of privacy. The case made it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and in an 8-1 decision, the court ruled in favor of the Westboro Church and said members had a right to promote their message in public settings. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that speech is powerful. It can stir people to action, move them to tears of both joy and sorrow, and, as it did here, inflict great pain. On the facts before us, we cannot react to that pain by punishing the speaker. He also pointed out that the protest happened far enough away from the memorial service that there wasn't any indication that it interfered with the funeral. But Chief Justice Roberts added that while Westboro believes that America is morally flawed, many Americans might feel the same about Westboro. Want to talk about this? Head to CNNStudentNews.com. We posted this story on today's blog, and we're looking for your thoughts on both the controversy itself and the Supreme Court's decision. Americans are split on the possibility of a government shutdown. According to a recent survey, 46% of people say a shutdown would be good because it would stop the government from going further into debt. 44% say it would be bad because of the federal services that would stop running. It'll be 2 more weeks before that possibility comes up again. Yesterday, the Senate voted to keep funding the government through March 18th. The House passed the bill the day before. And once President Obama signs the extension, it'll be law. Many of you might not know the name Rodney King. Back in 1991, not a lot of other people did either. But that changed after something that happened 20 years ago today. King led Los Angeles police on a high-speed chase. The video of what happened when he was caught got attention across the country. A man nearby took this video, which shows the police beating Rodney King. He was arrested, but later released without being charged, and a little more than a year later, 4 of the officers were acquitted of beating King. The ruling caused racial tensions and set off a week-long riot in L.A. that left 55 people dead. Don Lemon recently sat down with Rodney King to talk about some of the struggles he's gone through over the past 2 decades and what his life is like now.
In the 20 years since his life was turned upside down, Rodney King has relocated to suburban Rialto, California. He's 20 years older and, according to him, a lot wiser. He admits his past is riddled with bad decisions.
If you could do it all over again, what would you do? Would you go out that night? Would you?
I would have stayed home. I think I'd have stayed home.
For years after the beating, Rodney King continued to have run-ins with the law. In 1996, he was sentenced to 90 days for a hit-and-run involving his wife. He was also arrested several times on charges related to domestic abuse, drug intoxication, and indecent exposure.
Why after all that? That's what people would say, especially black people. Why after all that, Rodney? Are you still getting in trouble?
I guess the trouble that they see me in is a part of my life that I'm working on.
And 20 years later, Rodney King still lives in fear.
Years after the beating, you wore a vest?
Yeah.
Do you still wear a vest?
Yeah, I do.
He wears a bulletproof vest in large crowds because threats against his life were all too real. The FBI once infiltrated a white supremacist plot to assassinate King.
Are you constantly looking over your shoulder?
I never feel safe. It's just things that happen. When you are part of history and it changes for the better, you got a lot of devilish people out there that don't like it.
When Rodney King had the blood on his face, that mugshot of you with the blood on your face, who was he then?
Oh man, a guy that was almost dead and just like happy to be able to still have that face, to be able to see that face.
And Rodney King now, all cleaned up, trimmed goatee, beads around his neck. Who is Rodney King now?
I consider myself a decent, good human being.
Teachers, our daily email gives you a sneak preview of what's coming up in tomorrow's show. Signing up for it, as simple as 1, 2, 3. 1, go to our homepage, cnnstudentnews.com. 2, scroll down to the How Do I box and click on Sign Up for the daily email. 3, just fill out the form. It's just that easy.
Time for a shout-out extra credit. The phrase "Twilight's last gleaming" is part of what song? You know what to do. Is it in God Bless America, The Star-Spangled Banner, America the Beautiful, My Country 'Tis of Thee? Another 3 seconds on the clock. Go. What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, that's part of the Star-Spangled Banner. That's your answer, and that's your shout-out extra credit.
80 years ago today, the Star-Spangled Banner officially became the U.S. national anthem. But the original is on the move. This is the manuscript, the original poem of the words that Francis Scott Key wrote while he watched the bombardment of Fort McHenry during the War of 1812. That's where the bombs bursting in airline comes from. Can you imagine that? You come up with a poem that more than 100 years later becomes your country's national anthem. That's what we call a banner achievement. It's time for us to wave goodbye, but don't let your spirits flag. CNN Student News returns tomorrow, puns and all. We'll see y'all then.